Tiga.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We hope the break has left you refreshed and ready for the next session. Our third session is AI for Supply Chain Management. We'll explore how AI can help manage supply chains more efficiently and tackle modern business challenges. This session will be presented by Professor Mark Goh, PhD, from the National University of Singapore, and will be moderated by Dr. Gede Aryadi, ESCOM, MBA. Dr. Gede, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone in the audience. Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity for today. We have received by the guest lecture for today, who is Prof. Mark Goh from National University Singapore. It's a pleasure, yeah. We have received him as the guest lecturer for today to discuss about the artificial intelligence for support in the supply chain management. And for today, in the first section, I will give some brief what's kind of the topic that Prof. Goh will discuss with the audience for today, especially how about the beneficial and advantages of the artificial intelligence to mitigate or to make alternative strategy for avoiding disruption or shocking about the supply chain concepts. And today, for the while, before we go to the second section for the Prof. Goh session, I give some brief discussion for the curriculum vitae from Prof. Goh. Please, MC, maybe can show the curriculum vitae to give a discussion about CV from Prof. Goh. Yeah. So, meanwhile, we wait the screen, yeah, from the curriculum vitae from Prof. Goh. I give some description from the personality curriculum vitae from him, yeah. Actually, Prof. Mark Goh, yeah, the home-based academician university in National University Singapore, yeah. You know that the university is the biggest university in the worldwide, and also the specialty of the research interest focus the supply chain management, especially the purchasing and also the supplier performance management. And for the academic and the honors, we know that in 2022, Prof. Goh obtained as the listed in the top 2% of the scientists globally. It means that Prof. Goh is one very distinguished expertise in supply chain in the worldwide. And also from the academic experience, you can find in the show screen, Prof. Goh have had the receive it many as the professor, as the adjunct professor and in Edith Cowan University, RMIT in Australia, and many university, not only in Asia, but also in European, in UK, as the adjunct and visiting professors. And also, beside the academic experience, for the corporate experience, we can check before in the early as the focusing in the NSN Young Company Industry Transformational Roadmap, and also has the global advisory in supply chain in the World Economic Forum. Yeah, it's a very prestigious forum to discuss about the supply chain from many practitioners in the worldwide. And also the publication especially the publication from Prof. Go focus and concerns about the supply chain management, especially to evaluate optimization about the supply chain performance. And today is a very pleasure. He will discuss how to make the optimize and to get the efficiency of the process in supply chain management. So for today, the topic is very, very interesting because in the reality, supply chain management is the weapon how you can compete to mitigate the vulnerability and complexity situation in the business. So it's a very good knowledge if we can hear and discuss for in-depth. And I hope all of the audience, especially students in Satya Wacana University, can share. And if you want to ask us some question, maybe after 1 hour, Prof. Go will give the discussion. You can give some questions to related our topic for today, maybe related with the management issue, especially the supply chain management. Okay, to make the shorter times, please give applause from Prof. Mago to present. Time is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. All right, thank you for coming back after lunch. All right, for today, let me see what's happening. Can I get the screen to show what I need to show? The screen is not showing the slides. Unless I have to, sorry, we are on a hybrid mode, so cannot establish, why? Retry. Oh, okay, very good. Okay, now let me go back again to say a few things. I'm not very good at presenting. I don't like long lectures. I prefer to answer questions from the floor. So if you have questions, feel free to ask questions. But I'm not claiming that I know the answer to all your questions. I will try my best to look at that, right? And second thing is, this is a talk about AI and the supply chain. So if you do not know much about the supply chain, do let me know. I'll pause and I'll slow down and explain some of the things in the supply chain to you. The third thing, very important, very, very important before I forget, and that is that some of the slides are sensitive. They are proprietary information, and hence that's why we have to resort to a hybrid mode to share with you. So I would appreciate if you do not circulate the slides, right? Because these are very sensitive, current information regarding certain organizations. Okay, so for today, oh, what happened now? Okay. But the brief that was given to you from you to me, at least by your organizers, is as follows, right? And the idea here was to look at this thing called AI, artificial intelligence, which can mean different things to different people. And my job here for this afternoon, right, is to look at this thing called the transformative impact, okay, of artificial intelligence on supply chain management. So that is a very big area. That's the first thing. Second thing is that there are also things that was given to me in my brief about AI-driven technologies, which of course is machine learning, which I'll use ML for short. Then there's predictive analytics. Of course, it's just only one of the 4 aspects of analytics, and automation, which in one sense streams from what the second speaker before me spoke about when he talked about this process, robotic process automation, right? So this is very well linked to that. Oops, how come it's going back again? Okay, sorry. No, this is not good, not good. I don't want to go there. Sorry. Oh, I don't like. Okay. This is no. I think I have to hold this back. My screen is moving faster than what I like. Okay. Give me a second on that. Okay, good. I will. Yes, okay, no, I've got it, I'll just come back to it. Yeah, so here, what I want to do with you for today, for the hour or so, 60 minutes, okay, is that I want to show you how AI can enhance efficiency, reduce costs, and mitigate risk. Now, why mitigate risk is because the flip side of risk, or the response to risk, is actually agility. Hence, that's why I put down there, compare against agility in supply chain operations. And what we'll look at is, more importantly, not just the textbook, not the classroom, but how companies actually use real-time data analytics, right, to analyze some of the things and make use of AI to guide their decision-making and to look at the future of AI. In that regard of what the earlier speaker from the Philippines, she mentioned about sustainability, closed loop. Yes, there's a lot of talk about sustainability and closed loop, but the question is how to do it better and how can we use AI to help our job, right, in that sense. Okay, so that's where I want to go through with you. Now, in that sense, my agenda is very clear. Given that brief, I sort of set out a few points, which in this case here, as you can see, there are altogether 9 points, right? The first one, of course, is the introduction to AI in supply chain management, or what I call SCM. And then the other one is why AI, right? And hence, we're going to look at the benefits, so to speak, of AI. And the third one is, where is AI applied? That's important, isn't it? So that at least when you go out to work, if you want to work in a certain area, you think that you're more data savvy, more AI literate, right? Then that's where we can look at the application of AI in the supply chain. And in the supply chain, we always say it's not a simple thing. Why? Because you need to manage two things. What we call the P's and Q's. P is in processes, and Q as in the quality of the process that you're managing, right? And I will highlight that by means of case studies on AI implementation and use. And in that regard, I will do two things. One, show you a large company, how they have used AI, and at the same time, I want to show you how a small company has also used AI in a very successful way, and also from two different industries. One in terms of mass moving transportation, right? Another one in terms of hospitality. So you see two different sectors, two types of companies, and two geographies, one overseas, and another one closer to home, as in from the case of Singapore. So all in all, we'll do 6 different instances. Then point number 6, we talk about future trends and innovation. So the question is, we are here now, AI is here with us. The next question is, what next? Right? And I think this will be interesting for all of you who have yet to graduate or thinking of graduating, because I suspect and I feel that your most important point to you now is how to find a job that can last you for the next 40 years, as was said earlier on by the speaker from Utopia, right? But that said, I have a little qualifier. And that is that most people now do not look at jobs that last for 40 years. True? You, as young people, 40 years is too long, right? So you may be happy to have a job that lasts for 2-3 years and move on to another job, right? So the question then is, how do we do that? Okay, so in that regard, I think it's only fair for me to show you and share with you some of the challenges and limitations in terms of the AI adoption. In short, the risks, right? In as much as there's a risk of doing it, there's also a risk of not doing it. So we want to make sure that we provide that balanced view, right? And then finally, point 7, on to the ethical side of it and sustainability implications. For the ethics side of it, I'm not going to talk too much today because I have another session with you tomorrow, and that's where I'll look at the ethics side of it and share with you a little bit of research that we've currently embarked on and show you what the rest of the world is doing in terms of ethics in AI and how to link it to sustainability. So, question then is there a way where you can work in a company, be useful to the company, and is there a way where companies can actually provide a roadmap for its employees to look at implementing AI in the supply chain? Short answer is yes, and that's where the sensitive information comes in. And that's where I will share, but I cannot let you have the slides because that's currently very much work in progress by the company. And once that is done, that is point number 9. I will conclude and I'll take questions. So the good news is this. Points 1 and 8, if you're happy with that, I can go through very fast, 30 minutes. Then the next 1 hour is all on point number 9. So if you have questions, prepare them early, all right? Otherwise, you give me an easy break. Okay, so let's see. So now let's go down to this thing called the big word, supply chain management. Right? So what in the world is it? And this is where you have to define it and look at how important it is. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that once we've done the context, then we'll talk about the topic we want to talk about today, which is AI. So question is, what is supply chain management, right? I spoke to Pak Riyadi earlier on, and he said that you all don't do or teach supply chain management, which is good and bad. Good in the sense that then I can tell you anything, you believe me. Bad in the sense that you should do, right? Because it is very important, right? And I'll show you later why it's important, because this is one aspect of operations which has got a lot of challenges, right? But before that, let me talk about this thing called AI. I want to clarify that actually, in today's context, we have abused the word AI in many senses. When you tell AI to one person, it can mean one thing. You tell him the same term AI to another person who has used some form of AI before, it can mean a different thing. So the question then is, what exactly is AI? Well, the good news is that AI is still evolving, and I'll show you later in the slide how much it's evolved. But we all do know that AI has got a few components. One is, of course, machine learning, and machine learning is no different from what you learn in data analysis or in statistics, right? When you think about terms like clustering, regression, it's all there. So this is why I use the term called ML. Then the next one, of course, is natural language processing. So what does it say? It says that, look, we are dealing with data. In the past, you probably dealt with data that is numeric, means numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, right? But today, data comes in more ways than one. It's not just numeric, it's also verbal, text data, right? And there are issues, there are techniques called topic modeling, for example, that will do text data pretty well, and then you can use some Bayesian approach to resolve that and understand the language and what it means. And the third form of data is, of course, imaging data, right? Images can also be data, right? And today, you find that there are a lot of sensors in every developed city of the world, right, because it's part of their smart city program, where they have sensor data and they make use of computer vision to see whether you are a criminal or whether you are cleared to pass. Give an example in terms of So let me see about this image data. You remember the recent Olympics where China was involved? One of the things that they did was actually to capture faces, right? And that's where you talk about face recognition by all the crossings. And today is pervasive in China. So that's why you find that they have less use of physical foot patrolling by the policemen, but they use road cameras, they use traffic lights to actually put in small digital devices to capture all your facial movement, and they can identify whether you are a foreigner or a local, and then they can stop you accordingly. So all this are part and parcel of this big thing called computer vision, an area that started only about 30 years ago when the MIT guys looked at it in the initial instance, and now today it's progressed quite fast. Now, the other part of AI technology, one thing that the lady speaker just before lunch spoke about, and talked about predictive analytics. So that's a big thing now. Today we're all using this to predict, right? To predict what? To predict whether you are, for example, from a bank, whether you are credit worthy, from a shipment, whether the shipment will be delayed. If so, what's the degree of delay? Right? So this is where we talk about one aspect of the analytics apart from the traditional descriptive diagnostic and prescriptive analytics. So this is another part which is called predictive. Now, bottom line is, if you ever give up now after my slides, then the thing to note is this, that AI today is fast becoming a game changer, right? In supply chain management, which is what the acronym SCM stands for. Why? For 3 reasons. AI can be used to drive efficiency. So that's the plus point. It means you can do things more efficient. Earlier on, you heard from the speaker from Utopia, where he said he set only X amount of time to set up his slides, which is true, right? Because with AI, it gives you that ready information. You don't have to conceptualize, you don't have to think so hard. And same goes for operations. When you put it in the supply chain, you can now have more operational efficiency. The second one is, because you are using predictive analytics, then you find that if you apply it carefully, then your whole supply chain can become more resilient because you know what is going to happen next, roughly, right? Because you can project with a certain degree of probability of success or likelihood. So that's where we talk about the degree of resilience. And the third one, which is now becoming more and more critical, and that is real-time decision-making. Why? Because all of us want information fast so that we can act on it faster, so that we can make the best decision wherever we are, right? So that's where we talk about real-time. And if you look at these 3 things, they are not new, right, in terms of the topic of discussion. Why? Because they were actually existing problems in the old supply chain, right? In the traditional supply chain, these will be some of the key challenges that I present to you here. One is every guy or every lady who works in the supply chain business or supply chain game will tell you in their operations, their problem is this. They only look at what they can see because that's all they can see. So they have what we call a lack of visibility. And for the last 20, 30 years, every CEO of a supply chain company will say that, look, they need visibility. The question is how to get it. So they spend a lot of money to build expensive computer systems to link one point to another, or what we call one node to another, right? Why do we need visibility? Because the evidence of the lack of visibility is actually very clearly seen in the difficulty in doing what we call the track and trace behavior. So it's a difficulty in tracking goods and managing operations across global supply chains. In short, what I'm saying here is this. As the supply chain becomes more global, there's a need for greater visibility. And companies, the customers of the companies called the shippers, they complain and say that, look, they don't have enough visibility to know when their goods arrive, and hence they get upset. Point number two, the other part is demand volatility. What does that mean? It means that in life, if everything is predictable, then we know how to plan for the next day. Imagine, today you can sit here. Tomorrow you'll be doing something else, but you don't know what you're going to do. Right? And hence we talk about that volatility in demand. Right? Because you don't know what you're going to do, then you don't know what you are going to be demanding. So the same for the customers. In this case, it can be a manufacturer, it can be a service organization. They do not know the next demand point. So as a result, they cannot give clear indications. And once you cannot give clear indications, what do we do traditionally? We do what we call, at best, forecasting, right? And we base our forecast on some assumed figures, some expected behavior, and we try to make the best of it. And any company that has done forecasting will tell you their best acceptable accuracy is plus or minus 5 to 7%. There's no way they can forecast accurately, right? Even in the business of death, of funerals, right? That is a Poisson behavior, right? No one can tell a person when they can die and then prepare the funeral, for example. Right? So that's where we talk about the issue of demand volatility, right? Because if there's a sudden outbreak, say a pandemic, then the demand for graveyards will increase. And that's exactly what happened in COVID-19. When in Hong Kong, there was a big demand for funeral spots. And hence, the delay was no more 3 weeks, but 3 months, right? Because in Hong Kong, when you pass away, you have to book a spot, right? So you could prepare for that. Now, so this is the very critical part, and that companies are very interested in saying, if you can predict demand for them, then both shipper, as in the manufacturer, the client or the customer, and the service provider, which is the third-party logistics provider, the 3PL, will be happy to hear you because why? They want to manage one very important aspect, their inventory, right? Because they want to know when to deliver, how much to store, and when to get rid of it, right? These are the 3 whens that would affect the company's bottom line. So unpredictable market demands lead to what I call inventory inefficiencies. Not so much in terms of finished goods, not so much in terms of safety stock, but also in terms of getting the delivery person in your doorstep to get rid of the stuff at the right time. Point number 4, we talk about operational inefficiencies. Today you see a lot of things that are being improved. I can share with you a little story. When I came down yesterday at Surabaya Airport, it was a different story in Indonesia, at Surabaya also, right, before COVID-19 started. It was in 2018, right, when I gave a talk at the right? And now you have a QR code that everything is almost seen. So what does it say? It says that I cleared customs, I cleared immigration, I cleared baggage checking, everything within 10 minutes. So in that sense, from airport door to aircraft door to terminal door, it took me less than 10 minutes. And that was amazing. It's a credit to the people who designed the QR code and everything to organize all this. Why? Because whenever you have these things happening, it means we say that the process is efficient. Right? It's efficient because even if there's an error of 1 minute, and 1 minute out of 10 minutes is an acceptable error because it's only, sure, it's 10%, but it's only 1 minute physically, right? It's compared to an error of 1 day, 2 days, 1 week. That's totally unacceptable from a business point of view. So the claim here in the traditional supply chain is this: processes that are manual are not good. Means things that require paper and pen to do, they are not good. Why? Because they take time, they can delay. People, as you know, when they enter data, they always have a tendency to enter wrongly after a certain period of time. And we always attribute this to human fatigue. So that's where manual processes can cause delays and errors. The next one related to that is, of course, the global supply chain. The more global it is, the more complex it is. Don't believe me? Look at what Trump did, right? On April, okay, today is April 10th. Yeah. So today he activated that, all his tariffs, right? Guess what? If you want to have a global supply chain like Samsung, moving things from Korea to the US to Europe to Australia, all their handphones, their monitors, and so on, one of the challenges they have today is this. What is the tariff they have to pay? Because they really don't know. Right? You move through a third country, what's going to happen? You move air direct or ship direct, what's going to, how much of the cost? And they have to make sure that they sell the same handphone as far as possible at the same price. Right? Otherwise, you have issues later in trying to move the actual demand for each country. So, complex global operations, and that becomes a real challenge, especially in the light of today's context, geopolitical context that is. The next one, in every country, there's always this labor cost issue, and that's where I bring you to this point called transportation costs, labor costs, and warehousing costs. In logistics or supply chain, three key costs matters, right? Labor. You want to make sure that you put to a country, you store your goods in a country that's cheap, lower labor, so that you don't end up paying unnecessary costs. Second, you want to make sure that the transportation you use is the slowest mode, but yet reach the customer in the time that he or she wants it. You do not want to ship something that's meant for the oceans by air, right? Because air costs 2.5 to 3 times more expensive than ocean shipping. The last point here, which is the one which is most interesting, we have seen one of those already, which is the geopolitical tensions, China and the US. Remember, the US had slapped a levy on China. It was during Trump's first term in office, then after Biden, so they had a little percentage of X%, and then after that, in Trump 2.0, they slapped another 50% or so, right? And now China retaliated and said, I'll slap the same thing, another X% higher than the 50% you slapped on me. And now Trump tells me, you tell China, say, you slap me the Y%, I'll slap you even more. So what does that say? It says that this geopolitical tension is not good. Not good for supply chain management, because why? The countries that have invested in the China plus one policy now are paying the price. Vietnam is a classic case, right? So the question then is, how do we overcome all this, what I call supply chain disruptions? The third one is what I raised on just now, on the geopolitical tensions. There are two others. One is natural disasters. Indonesia is also has a fair share of natural disasters. Merapi was a classic case, right? And of course, there have others in Myanmar recently, just a couple of weeks ago, no more than a couple of weeks ago, where there was an earthquake, and that would actually disrupt a lot of the supply chains. One key disruption in the earthquake, for example, is the airport, right? Because the runway could be damaged, so it affects and halts operations. The next one in the middle is a big one, which I left it to last for this slide, and that's the COVID-19 pandemic. With COVID-19, when it happened, guess what? Everybody paid a big price. Cost of transportation was too expensive, and everyone wanted to know one thing: how to predict when COVID-19 will end. Right? Because once they can predict that, then they can manage their whole operations again. So this is where we look at some of the challenges and how AI can come into play. Okay, so earlier on I mentioned the phrase called game changer. So I want to make a claim here, and the claim is very simple. AI has a role, and the role is that of a game changer. Why? Because in this case here, to me, as far as I see from the literature, from both the academic literature and the gray literature, AI has done a few things. One is, using AI, it can enable the automation of what we call repetitive tasks. So, one word of advice, that is that if you choose to go to work, make sure you go for jobs that are high value added. All those jobs that require data entry in time to come will not pay you the amount that you want to aspire to, right? Because this can be replaced already. Two, with AI, you find that it can improve visibility, which is something that we talked about earlier slide, that one of the challenges is the lack of visibility in the overall supply chain, so right? Because AI can now put in sensors, IoT, to do what we call real-time data monitoring. And the data can be updated almost instantaneously. The only thing that can stop the data from updating is because of a server failure. Right? That's the only thing that can stop it. Point number 3, predictive analytics, and this is where we use for risk and demand forecasting. So what are we saying? We're saying that, look, if we use AI correctly, we don't have to worry about traditional forecasting inaccuracies and all the MAPEs that we have, or MADs that we talk about, right? Because with AI, you have more sophisticated techniques to triangulate your algorithms to make sure that your accuracy is improved, right? And then you can proceed forward. Now, point number 4 is where now with AI, you can put all these 4 different types of analytics that I put down there for you to see, namely descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. Right? So that's what AI does. So in short, if you're to invest in an AI system, make sure the AI can do more than just describing data for you using simple charts or files or diagrams. Second one is that if you are going to use AI, make sure that it can do more than just telling you what the problem is. It must be able to predict when the problem will hit you with a degree of accuracy. And the last one is, if you have an AI system, you bought into it, make sure that it can tell you what to do, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're a smart system, it must guide you, and then decide whether to follow its advice, right? So this is where we talk about the prescriptive. And I'll show you and talk more about this in the case study that I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so we highlighted just now very quickly. I just want to highlight 2 points which I have left out in the earlier mention about all the, what's that? No, I missed it again. Hang on, it's a bit off, huh? I think role of AI is there. Okay, yes, let's see. Enable that, not yet, a bit slow. Okay. Okay, sorry, I was too fast with the computer. Okay, so here, I missed 2 things just now which I didn't talk about, which I think there's still a need for us here as humans. The first one is, okay, here. First one is called optimization algorithms. It means to say that now, you know, when we set up an algorithm to design, for example, vehicle routing in last mile delivery, right? We always have to ask ourselves whether we can have an algorithm that can solve the problem in double quick time. What does that mean? It means that to say that if I put in the parameters of the problem, if I feed in the data, I want the solution to be good, fast, and reliable. If you do it by hand, well, maybe it takes a longer time. If you do it by Excel, depending on how many files, how many lines of code you have, you probably take a long time. If you use C#, right, you take much longer, maybe shorter. Within a day, you get a solution. But with AI, the smart part is that once you build the algorithm, it's smart enough to say, okay, this one works better last time. You can pick from there. So in short, using AI, you can actually have a whole suite of optimization algorithms, which will help you to do not just the routing, but dynamic routing. So what does dynamic routing mean? It means that, look, if I know that with a certain degree of certainty, 90%, 85%, that tomorrow this road will be blocked because there's a festival going on, it will suggest a different route for your flow. It will tell you also the expected time, right, because of this blockage in the road system. The next one, of course, is inventory management. We mentioned about earlier on the finished goods inventory. With AI, it can also tell you that you do not have to worry about this safety stock in terms of its weeks of supply, but it will tell you also that the weeks of supply can be adjusted up or down, right? You go to work in a company, it will tell you the weeks of supply, usually for safety stock, is never adjusted. It's always a fix, right? Because you worry about the reorder point changing, right? But with AI now, you can adjust that. That is important because that helps you to bring your working capital down. Now, point number 6 is something that is already happening. There's a big initiative globally called the Smart Cities Initiative, and I think Indonesia is also part of it. The Philippines and Singapore, we are also part of it. So in that Smart City Initiative, there's a big move to use IoT together with AI. So IoT is the Internet of Things, whereby now sensors are placed at strategic points. For example, when do you know your traffic light will turn green, right? Is it because you are there? You're driving a car, the light will turn green because it sees a number plate, right? Or is it because it sees 3 cars in the queue, so it's time to turn green, right? Instead of keeping it red. So that's what IoT does. And then you can use AI and say, when will I see 3 cars in the queue, so that I can then prepare the next roadblock to change color, so that it becomes red or green depending on the situation. So that's where we talk about blending IoT with AI, and that's where we talk about real-time monitoring of assets and predictive maintenance of assets. Because There are traffic lights, sure. There are cameras inside traffic lights, sure. But they also need to be upgraded. They also need to be maintained, right? So hence, we talk about the predictive maintenance of such equipment. Okay, so that's where we talk about the AI technologies that are used. Now, where are the benefits? If you understood what I've said, then clearly technology is not as fast as my finger, but I hope you will come. Clearly, okay, clearly, not so clear to me. Clearly, there will be key benefits of using AI in the supply chain. What is this? Let's see, let's see. Okay, let's see. Are we there? No. Are we there? Let's try again. Yeah. It's Zoom. Okay, let's see. I will up, okay, down. How's that? Okay, we have a slight technology glitch. Are we there? No. How do I stop it? Okay, you take over, take over. I'm here for you, thanks. It's okay, Ken? Okay. Sorry about the glitch. Oh, okay. Physical constraint. Okay. Understand. Something that we didn't expect, huh? Yeah, disruption. Yes. System disruption. Okay. Well, in the meantime, while we wait for the system to kick back in again, I'm happy to take questions now. If there are any questions, any one of you? We are back. Okay, good. We are back. Okay, so if you look at all this, then what are we saying? We're saying, look, if you use AI properly, right? If you invest in AI from a supply chain perspective, these are the things that can help you. For example, forecasting. You learn forecasting in class as students here. Right? I'm saying to you that now you have not just the traditional forecasting, but also AI demand-based forecasting. What is AI demand-based? It means that AI-based demand forecasting, it means that now we can have more than the usual traditional, ARIMA, more than traditional 3-month moving average or 3MA. We can do what we call the long short-term memory. It means to say that you can take the data, you can link it one to the other, look at the sequence, look at the relationship, and build a whole understanding of data moving forward, right? Whether it's 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and even to the year. Okay, so that's the first part. Second one is the operational efficiency, and that's where we talk about all these jobs that need to be manual, repetitive, and I claim that, look, if you can, avoid them, because they are jobs of low value to you, right? In time to come, there will be a smart agent to handle these things in lieu of you. So that's what we talk about, making sure that things are operational. An example of this operational efficiency and AI is your typical chatbot. Today, we pick up a service call, you answer, you take a call, make a customer inquiry or whatever, you find that it's not answered by a human, it's answered by a machine, right? Whether it's Mimi or whatever, or Maria, right? It's there, right? So this is where we talk about the operational efficiency. Then the cost reduction with AI, because you don't have to worry about building in buffers so much now, your prediction is accurate enough, you can actually reduce all the unnecessary fixed costs. Visibility and transparency, I mentioned just now already, so that's where we talk about the real-time tracking. Now, just now I mentioned about this thing called Samsung. So I also put an example here, SDS. SDS is actually related to the company called Samsung. They spend billions of dollars to build their own AI system, which actually tracks what? If you buy a Samsung TV, let's say the frame, right? You buy a Samsung TV and you're in the US, literally, when the point in the time when the TV is being made, or the order is made, TV is made in the factory in Samsung, at the port in Samsung, ship out across the oceans to the US, all the way down to your home. Everything is tracked, even to the point when there are also component failures in the frame, so that when there's a need for replacement, they know exactly who to contact. And their purpose is very simple, is to make the customer happy, that's all. So if you look at this, enhanced visibility and transparency is all about data tracking, monitoring of shipments, inventory, and supplier performance. Now, don't believe me, just talk to the Samsung guys, because they said that explicitly. Now, next one, risk management. Risk is a big word today. Every country talks about risk. Every government talks about risk. But the unfortunate part is that they cannot manage the risk well, simply because there are risks such as disruptions, which you saw just now, which we manage well. There are delays and even risks of demand fluctuations. What AI does is not to solve your risk for you. It actually looks at giving early signs of disruptions. For example, bad weather, right? You want to route a ship to another location. Or for example, when will the supplier default? Instances would be like the chips, right? And because of COVID-19, companies like Siemens, companies like Infineon, companies like TSMC, they are very concerned about another chip shortage because they do not want to be caught with cars without electronic chips. The last one here, or second last one, is customer satisfaction. This one here is interesting because all this is due to human nature. Human nature, because whenever we put money down to buy something, you expect it to receive straight away, right? But the reality is that it's not possible, isn't it? So what AI can do is this. You'll say, okay, why should I deliver to all customers at the same rate? They'll tell you, when was it that you gave a bad order receipt review upon receiving good buying online? Let's say Shopee or Lazada or whatever, right? If they find that you are a customer who seldom says bad things about them, guess what? They can afford to be late. And they give you a small token as compensation, $1, $2, and so on, right? But if they find that you're a customer who constantly complains about the delivery and any small point you complain, so what AI will do is that they'll make sure they separate you apart based on the prediction that they've done, and then they make sure that even you buy a low-value item, they'll send to you first, so that in their rating, everything is high. And they're even sharing it, in the case of Shopee, they're sharing this information with their suppliers on the platform. So the suppliers will know, right? These are the customers that they either must handle it well or not handle it all. That means deny your custom. It means don't want you to buy from them. The last one, you heard from the Filipino speaker about the circular economy today. Yes, AI is there, but it's not direct effect. It's what I call indirect effect on improving the circular economy in terms of reducing waste, energy consumption, CO2 emissions, especially for Scope 3, right? And with AI, you can now move from Scope 3 into Scope 4, which is the avoidable emissions. It means you don't worry about indirect causes anymore. You look at how you're doing with AI to say, okay, what are the emissions that can be avoided? And finally, optimize your operations. Next, please. Okay, so what does it say? It says that, look, AI is not really new in the context of supply chain management. And here I want to show you, and take this slide to show you the 3 steps of evolution for AI in the supply chain. We started off with the traditional supply chain, where it's very manual, basic software that you have in-house software, either developed or bought off the shelf. But today, we are looking at digital SCM, as in supply chain management with digital techniques. For example, SAP's HANA, S4HANA, where it's a leverage system using cloud computing and automation. Automation could be making use of platforms like Ariba. Now, the next one, of course, is this, and that is AI-driven supply chain management. It means to say that now the whole supply chain has a control tower that provides not just visibility, but also intelligence to say, if this happens, we must do this. And then the management must agree that they will do this, right? Because at the end of the day, it's still the management who say yes or no. Right? So that's what we talk about, the AI-driven, where you use advanced analytics, machine learning, predictive algorithms to optimize not just the factory side, not just the transportation, but also the returns and use. Right? So every aspect of the supply chain. Next, please. So quick one, a case study. For one of a better term, I use the first case study, Amazon, right? And you can see that Amazon has actually used AI. Oh, sorry, one more slide back, please. I see a different one. Wait, one slide, back. Okay, yeah. So here, I want to show you this, okay? This is a company that you are familiar with, I hope, right? Where they use AI in supply chain for 3 areas: forecasting of inventory, warehouse robots. So in the warehouse today, we have robots. So AI is used to drive the robots, move the robots, and delivery routes, okay? And the outcome is very clear. Each one of these that they use, they've seen positive results. Better inventory, lower times, and better customer service. Okay, next. So what exactly did they do? That's where the next slide shows you in detail. This is what we call, previously, this one, is it? Okay. Previously, we talked about the AI demand fulfillment, right? And here is an example where Amazon actually, right, uses this packaging system whereby now they look at packaging. Now, why I want to choose this to show you? This is very simple. When you buy something online, and I hope you have bought things online, you notice something. All you want when you receive your goods, right? You bought something online, you only want the goods. The one thing that you throw away is the packaging, isn't it? Now, the question then for these companies is this. When they deliver to you, whether it's a Shopee or Lazada or Amazon Prime, when they deliver to you, the big question is how to recover the packaging, how to make money out of the packaging, right? And their biggest concern is that packaging costs actually cost 10% of the value of the goods. And many a time, when you order something, when they send the packaging to you, they do the packaging in more ways than one. It means they do a double protection. In short, one level, plastic covering, then another one, another protection, air bubbles, or an envelope already sealed properly so that people will not be able to steal or pilfer from it. Now, so Amazon came and said, why should every product have the same process for packaging? That means the 4 or 5 steps. Why can't we look at packaging based on the type of product? A blanket doesn't need very extensive packaging. Only waterproofing is good enough. Whereas something which is breakable, let's say ladies' cosmetics, which they deliver glass, right? You need at least 2 forms of packaging, protection, right? Against falls, against damage, against weight, and so on. Right? So that's where they came in. And they look at all this, and then they have a system, which you can see the diagram there, where they use extensive computer vision to say, this package that goes through for this country, what's the likelihood of people stealing? What's the likelihood of damage? And what's the likelihood of returns? So if these 3 are high, they'll say, I want to now put more emphasis on packaging so that I have less complaints, less returns, right? Even though I incur a bit of cost on packaging. And then if you deliver a blanket, say, customer doesn't worry too much about it, he's happy to receive the blanket because he wants immediate use, I'll use the simplest form of packaging so that the cost is only 1 cent per package, right? Instead of the 10 cents. Now, that's important, right? To you and I, 1 cent is nothing, but in operations at Amazon, where they run billions of dollars, every 1 cent saved is actually 1 cent in the pocket of someone else in the company, the shareholders, right? And if you add the 1 cent up collectively, it can amount to easily $10 million globally a year. Okay, so that's their motivation. Next. Okay, so while we wait for the next to come, so this is a very positive case example, and you look at this, the bottom line was here, that they saved 2 million tons of packaging material globally since 2015. Okay, are we there next? Okay, now I'll show you another case. This is, I believe, yellow, DHL, yes, DHL, okay? DHL, okay, so here, I want to show you how DHL does it. DHL is a big company, right? And today they have changed, right? The company is more technology than anything else. So this is a case where they use DHL digitalization deployment, where they infuse the AI into it, and they show, right, how they have saved money, how they have gained from implementing AI, right? And this is a whole schematic, and they find that, look, now with AI done, they have actually pushed big time. 91% of the local offices all have AI implementation to some degree, others, right? And they are making use of what we call drones for delivery, right? Drones in 2015 was only tested. Asia was the first one probably in Northern Europe that tested it, but today they're using it extensively. But of course, today documented evidence is this, that drone delivery, the best company, best in class, is not DHL. It's actually a Chinese food delivery company by the name of Meituan. They did it during COVID-19 in 2021, 2020, where they delivered to a city called Shenzhen in southern China to a population of over 800,000 deliveries. Now that's amazing, right? And all this, if you got 800,000 deliveries in the whole span, right, of delivery, say 6 months or so, right, and for 8,000 delivery vehicles not to crash on each other, surely there must be some smart technology driving all this transportation, and that's where the AI comes into play. Okay, next. Are we there for ideation? Not yet, huh? Okay, this is a bit slower.
Yeah, this is the connection.
Connection again, is it? Okay, I want to show you another part about the supply chain now. Okay, this DHL is done. Let's move on to the next one. Not there yet, huh?
Not yet.
Okay, this one, okay, I'm not going to talk about this one, but you can look at that, right, where they use drones in the warehouse and also on the road for delivery. Okay, next slide. It's a lag, it's a lag.
Lagging.
It's a lag, huh? So if you look at this, okay, oh, we missed it. Come. Are we good? You need to enter full screen mode. Okay, can you? Okay. So this is on the ground, road transportation. They have a platform called Raptor, whereby they'll organize all the flow and everything, and they've used the same Raptor in the warehouse. So Raptor basically stands for routing algorithm. So remember I talked about optimization for routing using under AI, right? So that's where they implemented that. So what does it say? It says that they got good scientists, good management people, good analysts to come work together as a team in Bonn, in Germany, where they develop this and they roll out for the whole world, as you can see in the diagram over there. So every delivery that goes out, they know exactly where it's going, how to route it in the best possible way, whether to go east or to go west, right? And this, again, is a judgment call when we were doing decisions at a human level. But now with AI, it's an informed judgment call because they use a lot of past data to see all the delivery times. Okay, next. Now, in that sense, you find that the load factor is optimized, the time spent is also reduced, right? And, okay, you have DHL, big player. You have the other big player, Maersk, the shipping company. They also did the same thing. They developed their own AI, right? They developed their own AI and they call it the Altana, whereby now it's a system whereby they look at this AI, they put into place and they say, let's manage their shipping fleet globally and say, how do we improve the space, the utilization of the ship? No point building bigger and bigger ships when the cargo is not confirmed, right? So they use that. Okay, next. Maersk has gone beyond that, whereby they also use all this AI in negotiations with their suppliers for warehouse space, for example. And the reason why they did that is because they did a study, they supported this study whereby they said that the average Fortune 500 company actually has 20% of the spend locked in what we call suboptimal supplier deals. Suboptimal supplier deals means what? Renting a warehouse space, renting of trucks, assets, ships, and so on, or planes. Right? So they wanted to lower that, and so they have all these generative AI things into place. Okay, next. Now, at the warehouse, what happens? This is an example of warehouse. Very different from what you see, from what you and I know. In this warehouse, there are 4 robotic equipment. The first one is a robot that takes pallets, moves it down. Then the second one is a robotic picking arm that picks the pallet from the ground in the automated guided vehicle up to the conveyor belt. And the next one is a robot that activates the conveyor belt so that it will move the cargo from here all the way to the screen down there, and the screen is a scanner that will see whether the package is correct. If it's correct, then it goes up to another elevated automatic lift, which is the vertical chute that you see down there, called, for example, EX08 and so on. So all these are the chutes that will lift up there, and this is a nice automatic warehouse. So in that sense, in this warehouse, it only needs 2 people, 2 engineers. One to turn on the switch, the other one is a safety engineer to make sure that the first engineer doesn't get injured. The rest, everything else is automated equipment. Okay, next. So, where are we left with? We're left with this thing called supply chain visibility, customer service, making use of AI. Right? Today, we see a lot more of this, whereby it's not just the big companies, even the technology makers who are involved in this. For example, this example comes from Project 44, whereby now they're looking at all this AI to embed into different parts of contracts, contract negotiation, contract drafting, contract delivery, and say, how do I can best negotiate with other suppliers? So this is where we talk about improving customer service, providing the visibility, right? And here, this is a case of what we call not just ChatGPT, but movement GPT, whereby it's a data set that they track over 1 million shipments, representing 1 trillion worth of goods across 181 countries. So there will be 181 different country-based contracts to look at, and there's a value involved in it. So you want to monitor all the performance. And the only way you can monitor is making use of extensive databases and artificial intelligence. Okay, next. Okay, the other one related to that is this new thing, which I'll share a bit more tomorrow's talk, but here we'll talk about the generative AI in procurement, right? Because there is a big thing now in AI to manage this procurement in terms of sourcing, contracting, supplier management, ordering, invoicing, and payment. So these are all tedious processes for invoicing and payment, but now we have AI to do that. Okay, next. Now, this is sensitive again. This is an actual case of a company, which I showed you earlier on, and how they are using AI to change the whole procurement function. This company has a workforce of 36 procurement professionals, managing 11 countries in Southeast Asia. Only 36. So you think about it, every country has only got 3 procurement folks. And each one of these procurement folks has a very important role. One procurement guy is involved in the direct procurement. The other procurement guy is involved in indirect spend, that means managing all the hotels, the airfares, all their staff to travel, for a workforce of over 60,000, right, in this company. So you have 36 people to manage all this. And to do their work well, what they need to do is to make use of AI extensively, because their network, this is the Americas, this is Europe, and this is Asia. So all these 36 people will be responsible for managing that network. Okay, next, let's have a look at that. So what did they do? They recognize that AI will change. So how did they recognize it? They say, look, they need to use automation, they need to use AI to do the predictive analysis, to have the chatbots put in place instead of people managing 24/7. They need to also make use of the cloud, so they put into a cloud system, use cloud technology to manage data, to bring it down every time when they need it for real-time decision making. And at the same time, they are worried about their Scope 3 emissions, because they want to make sure that whatever AI uses to burn the system, they will not incur additional carbon footprint. And the fourth one is they need to have this thing called collaborative arrangements with their suppliers. So they want to use AI to manage the suppliers better, so that they get the suppliers to see their viewpoints in an objective way. Okay, next. So what does that lead us to? Now, issues. Whenever you introduce something new, AI or anything, doesn't matter, there will always be issues. For this organization, the first issue is this. They got people in the workforce ranging from 20 years old to 70 years old. Guess where the biggest issue came from? Anyone? Do you think it's the people who are 20 years old who say big problems, or do you think the people who are 70 years old still working for the last 45 years or so in the company, do you think they'll give you problems? Who would be the biggest troublemakers? I'll tell you this. It's not just one group. It's across the whole category. Why? Simply because when you introduce a new toy into the company, you tell everybody you must embrace it. Everybody will either choose to say yes, or they get frightened. The only time when everyone embraces a change in a company is when you tell the folks in the company, you all can go home, work from home, and it's full pay, right? Other than that, not everyone will be happy. So in this case here, there was resistance to change, and then also integration issues. This is what we call the systems integration, and the last one is skills gap. The speaker from Utopia asked a question earlier on about AI literacy, right? And I think it's the same question here again. In every organization today, in the space of the last 24 months or so, right, the skills gap, the AI literacy is very wide. There are those of you who are very good at programming, there are those of you who don't know anything, and worse, there are those of you who refuse to touch a computer. Refuse. When you see a number, you faint, that kind of thing, right? Okay, next. So companies in this area of procurement are now looking for procurement people with digital skills. So what does it mean? It means that they must at least understand how RPA works. They must at least understand where to insert blockchains. They must at least understand when to check the data, fact check the data, and look at the analytics and say, am I calling the right shots? Next. Okay, but this company has done it, and they've proven for themselves that there's cost savings. I cannot mention how much, but it's significant. They have efficiency gains, and they have now a better handle on risk management. Yep, next. So, is that the end of it? Have they arrived? No, they have not. This is only the start of their AI journey. The next thing you want to do is to connect everything through the IoT. Remember to talk about the Internet of Things? So they want to go to the next stage, and they want to have better systems of prediction, because with predictive analytics, there's no way you can get 100%, right? There's always a probability of error. So they want to make sure they can improve, lower that margin of error. And the third one they want to do is what we call the closing the loop, the circular economy, to use AI to predict when to actually ask for return from the customers. Okay, next. Okay, this is a big report coming from Gartner. Gartner talks about supply chain also. They do a lot of analysis. Every year they have annual surveys. And so this one they did look at using AI to transform and respond to uncertainty. And you find that actually, right, companies have implemented AI, they've got some degree of success, but not all of them having uniform degree of success. But the top users of AI here, Gartner found was this. First one, demand forecasting, supply planning, order management, and fulfillment. Right? So these are the key ones in their order. Then after that will be sales and operations planning, and then logistics and distribution. So case in point, and that is that AI helps the supply chain. Okay, next. Okay, now, we talk so much about AI, I highlight to you just now about ML and so on. I want to highlight to you two other things. There are two other parts of AI that we have not talked about, which is coming on stream. The first one is what we call AGI, Artificial Generative Intelligence. This is a scary one, because this artificial generative intelligence basically says that once you feed intelligence to a system, it will be smart enough to think on its own, right? And once it's smart enough to think on its own, it can work in another AI system to talk to each other, and then they will become a stronger entity. And that leads us to the next AI called the agentic AI, right? So these two things are new. AGI and agentic AI. Agentic AI, if you've done agent-based modeling, it's just basically AIs now become like agents working on its own independently, autonomously, and then after that, driving solutions on behalf of the human. Once you set its mandate, once you set the mandate for the system, it will go on its own. Okay, so that's what agentic AI is all about. Okay, next. All right, so these are some of the challenges that I highlighted, mentioned to you just now. And I'll highlight more about it, especially this last 3 points: lack of skilled workforce, ethical concerns, and change management, right, for tomorrow's talk. Okay, next. Okay, so you see all the trends of AI that we have talked about so far, and I said that, look, one of the things that you want to focus on is to build a system to manage all this agentic AI. There's another one here, which you probably seen it just now, but I didn't talk about this. Well, I spoke about cloud computing. I did not talk about edge computing. Microsoft is a classic case. They are a firm believer in edge computing. So there's also this thing called edge AI. That means you bring AI to the personal mobile device, whereby you can use it, for example, right? It can guide you in your decision making. Okay, next. Okay, we are almost done. The last one is conclusions. So, where does that lead us to? I think at the end of the day, AI will be here to stay. At the end of the day, the supply chain has benefited, and this was the holy grail that the supply chain was waiting for many, many years. It's not just technology, not just systems, but it's artificial intelligence, right? So that's where I want to pause now and say thank you, and any questions so far?
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation from Prof. Go about the supply chain integrated with the artificial intelligence. So from Prof. Go presentation, we can conclude that AI can help and reduce the disruption of the supply chain. So for information, most of the student in the management has learn about the operation management in these courseworks. So one of the chapter discuss about the supply chain, that process of the planning, coordinating, distributing among producers, suppliers, and consumers, and how to achieve the satisfaction that satisfaction for the customer that Prof. Good said. And from in meanwhile, we can check that AI now is a very, very vital role to mitigate and anticipate the shocking in the supply chain. For instance, like many cases that have state like Marsec, DHL, and Amazon, to give the supply chain, how to give the excellency customer. They try to deliver the product as soon as possible. They need a supply chain. In many cases that I said, that from the presentation Prof. Go. So we can try to learn that supply chain has very as the game changers from, and also as the weapon to give the resilience of the supply chain. So if the company can optimize the supply chain and without technology, like the traditional, conventional, just not resistant, just still resistant with the technology, it will be disrupted. And so what happened? With the AI, we can try give us some distinguished or distinctive approaches. So hopefully from the presentation Prof. Go, we can get many concepts about the functional artificial intelligence to increase the efficiency in supply chain. So the next Prof. Go, maybe I will give to the audience. Please, audience, anyone to ask the questions? Okay, can you stand up in front? Go to the in front, yeah. And say the name and department. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Tusulin Graciela. I'm from the Faculty of Economics and Business. Thank you for the opportunity, Prof. Go and Mr. Gede. Your presentation was very interesting and caught my attention for this particular topic. As AI increasingly automates business process and accelerates decision-making, organizations face the emerging challenge of workforce displacement in traditionally manual or operational roles. What strategic approach should be adopted to foster a harmonious integration between human labor and intelligent automation, ensuring that technological transformation enhances, rather than disrupts organizational capability and social stability? Thank you.
Okay, that's a very good point. Okay, if you have been following the EU, Stephanie, right? Stephanie,
Yeah. Stephanie.
Stephanie.
From management, yeah.
Okay. If you've been following what the EU has been doing, there's something called Industry 4.0, which is actually talking about man-machine interaction. Then there's also something called Industry 5.0, which addresses exactly the questions that you posed just now, and that's about the harmonious working together of man and machine. One of the things humans are very concerned about today is this: will the machine replace me? Remember I talked about IoT, right? This is an actual example. Okay, sorry. So this is an actual example. Where do you use IoT, Internet of Things? One of the things that in Singapore we do, is this: we use IoTs in the rubbish truck collection, in the road sweeping. Because why? Labor cost is expensive, right? So we have to engage migrant workers from places like Bangladesh who come in to work in Singapore to sweep the roads, right? So this is what the guys, they talked to me when they're asking me to do some of the projects with them, right? They were saying, how do we use AI to predict when the road should be cleaned? Should we clean the road after it's rained, or should we clean the road when it's cooler, right? Or should we clean the road just before the strong winds come, right? Those are all common questions. Why? Simply because after it rains, we think that the rainwater, if it's heavy rain, will sweep away all the dirt from the road. It will look cleaner anyway, so no point cleaning something that's already clean. That's the first thinking. Second thinking is that if you clean the road when a strong wind blows, no point, because why? When a strong wind blows, dirt will still come and settle on the road after you clean immediately. So then they say, okay, how do we use this? Right? So they say, okay, I will use IoT. Sensors put everywhere to detect. Now, once you put a sensor down there, and then you find that it tells you through the sensor that 60% of the time there's no need to clean the roads in the estates. Why? Because if you clean, right, either they're going to be dirty again, or they were clean to begin with, because there's no strong wind blowing, there's no rain, everything was, there's no strong wind, but there's rain, everything was status quo. But who's the unhappy one? 60% no need to clean, that means to say that you should drop the workforce by 60%. Guess who's unhappy? All the workers, the road cleaners, right? And then the migrant workers are unhappy because they say, oh, now I don't have 40 hours of work to do, I only got 27 or 28 hours of work to do, right? So I'm paid less. If I'm paid less, I can't bring money, I can't send money back to my home country. So there's a lot of displacement. So what do? Very simple. Workers are by nature self-preserving, welfare maximizing. So what do? They start to damage some of these IoTs, right? Because why? IoTs are just little small devices, right? Whereby they detect all the changes to sensors, right? They damage it, they destroy the thing, then after it can't tell the true story, right? And once you can't tell the true story, you got issues already. Now, how do you get them to work? Very easy. You tell them, look, we are not displacing you. We are actually moving you to another location where cleaning is demanded. Okay? So what do they do in terms of cleaning? They move them to the hawker centers, the food courts, where they are supposed to clean. But guess what? Then IoT comes in, AI comes in. They say, okay, how do we clean all the things in the food court? We use robots to clean. That means all the small, intelligent robots that you see. It used to be in the movie, iRobot and all that, but today we have it in Singapore to get them to move. So who is unhappy? Now, the only way to get them happy is very simple. You get them to do the same job, pay them more, they will not complain more, right? But longer term, then that's where you worry and say, what will happen to these people? Will they be displaced? Will there be social displacement? And I agree with you, Stephanie, that yes, over time, if you don't upgrade yourself, you want to stick to the same thing of happily cleaning, sweeping a road, yes, you'll be displaced and you'll be unhappy. Why? Because you have no new skills to rely on. True? So the question is the skills, right? Now that's one part. Later after this presentation, I'll have a talk with your professors and your faculty, right? And that's about curriculum development, right? One of the issues here is this. Questions that today universities are asking is, how can we teach all the new things in time for our graduates so that when they graduate, they'll be so-called workforce ready. Right? Once you think that you're workforce ready, then you find that your sense of being displaced will be less, right? Because you will think that you have a value there, which is true, okay? So, we talk about IoT, we talk about AI. The other part that now companies are looking for, especially European companies, are looking for graduates who are trained in sustainability. Now, of course, what is sustainability? It's not about you being environmentally conscious only, but it's also about you being able to compute things like carbon footprint. So you can suggest to the company what form of packaging to use. I'll give you an example. I'm currently working on a project with Cartier. Right, Cartier is the luxury goods company, and this is especially good for the ladies here. But don't have boyfriends of the ladies, please be careful. Don't allow your girlfriends to go to Cartier, okay? Because they'll burn a big hole in your pocket. Very, very expensive items. So what they're doing here is that they're looking at now using artificial intelligence, doing predictive analytics to say what sort of packaging do they want to put in a Cartier packaging so that they can be environmentally friendly. In short, right, they ask a very basic research question. Will customers pay for more expensive packaging? What's the packaging? For example, it's a Cartier box that you keep your Cartier jewelry or watch or item down there. Right? That box itself, right, in euro dollars is €5. Now you tell me, how much would you pay for a packaging? A plastic bag, a paper bag, or even a box, a food container? No one will pay $5, but Cartier uses that. Right? And the problem is this, the packaging that they use is also environmentally unfriendly because the core of the packaging is plywood, so it's wood. It means to have the packaging, you kill trees. So what they're doing now is to talk to a supplier in the US, right, whereby now they're going to look at environmentally sustainable packaging for Cartier. But it's more expensive, right? It is actually 2 times more expensive than the €4 or €5 euros, right? So the question is, will customers still continue to buy? Or can they market their packaging as environmentally friendly? And this is based on analytics. And will the people who are doing the packaging be happy? Because now they're going to be paid more because they're making more expensive packaging, right? Sourced from a sole location in the US. And the US government will be happy because why? Their SME now has a global role in that sense, right? So that's where you need to be smart to say, look at the value proposition. End of the day today, I think companies must be able to tell their clients and their employees that it's not so much managing the total cost of ownership, but in creating the total value of ownership. And that's where I think if you link the two together, sustainability and analytics or AI, it can become possible, right? It is possible, right? But the big issue then is developing countries. How do you manage the people, the workforce that are socially displaced? My last point to Stephanie is very simple. Take a look at China. China is a very classic case, right? They identified AI as a strategic emerging industry. Now, what does that mean? You might ask, so what's the big deal about calling AI strategic emerging industry? Remember I told you about the case of Olympics in China, the games, the Olympics in China, where they use AI to track facial recognition, okay? So now they look at that and say, they want to go further. Now, implication of that activity is very interesting. That one policy change by the government meant that their traditional car industry, means the ICE, the internal combustion engine, write-off. It took them 20 years now, from no car in China to #2 car maker in the world, right? China being #2, right? But it took them only 2.5 years to become #1 EV, as an electric car maker. But you know what? In the EV battery, EV vehicle, electric vehicles, they don't need so many workers. So imagine how many workers were displaced. If you ever had worked in a car factory before like me, then you know, right? In the ICE factory, there are so many parts, engine parts, that you need people to come in together to weld, to fit in all the parts of the car, right? And easily a car factory can employ, depending on how many shifts you have, over 1,000 workers. But with EV, no. With automation, with robotics coming in, you only need 7 engineers, not even workers, you know. These workers in the car factory, they're highly trained, they're university graduates, engineers, you know, to actually make cars. So clearly, if you talk about social displacement, I think the US has got no argument, no case in point. China actually physically displaced their workforce, right? Move them. Those who are lower value, they move them, force them to relearn. And that's why I look at the Chinese population, a lot of the young university students in China, they are now today forcing themselves to be what I call AI literate. AI in the sense that they may not be programmers, they may not be extensive, right, super users of AI, but they know how to speak the AI language. They know how to scrap websites for data. They know how to write in Python, for example, right? Very simple coding. Now, is there a need for them to do that? They see it as a necessity because the whole skill set environment, the whole landscape is changing. So because of that, they say, oh, they want to be different, right? That's what it is. That's unfortunately a fact of life. But if your point is that, can you teach an old dog new tricks? Then my point is this, it's better to teach the new tricks to a young puppy. Okay, so that's it.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Go from the answering questions. From Stephanie, is okay? Yeah, it's clear. It's very comprehensive. This how about the role of the AI and the sustainability, because we know we have interconnected between the economic, social, and environmental dimension of the sustainability. But the important things, the AI can increase and leverage the efficiency from the case from sewage or from the roots, yeah, with use the AI technology. And the second questions, please. Please, second questions. Jonathan Wibowo. You want to ask? Yeah, please.
Thank you for the chance, Mr. Gede. I want to ask about the sensitive information that AI will receive from the company. So considering AI reliance on data quality in supply chain management, along with the sensitivity of information such as pricing, contracts, and supplier identities, which are quite sensitive, what strategies should organizations adopt to ensure data integrity, security, and sustainability in supporting a reliable and ethical AI system?
Okay, good question, young man. I hope it's not because of your professor who asked you to ask a question. Okay. Okay, there is a whole realm of research. Okay, actually I was going to come to that point tomorrow about some of the research areas that you can look at doing, right? One of the issue here in AI is always about data protection, true, right? Cyber security, right? Because why? If you have smart bots, agentic AI, okay? If you have smart bots to track and do and detect or to perform fraud detection, right? It's equally interesting to see whether it's a smarter bot to crack into the system and tell the bot or the AI that's doing, or the robot that's doing the operations to go differently, right? To break into the system, what we call malicious codes, right? Or put in a malware into a system to stop it, or to create a lot of false negatives, right? Or false positives, depending on how you look at it, right? And this has happened, by the way, sometimes in a hospital context where AI is being used. And I tell you this, in a hospital, okay, when you see a doctor, most doctors cannot give you 100% accuracy in their prognosis or the diagnosis of your sickness or your disease. They can tell you only quite good 60, 70%, because why? They've been experienced enough as a doctor. But a young doctor will say, wait, you know what the young doctor will do? He say, go and take an X-ray, even if he's not sure. If you want to be very safe, say, go and do a CT scan. Why? Because he also doesn't want to be faulted for that. Why? He wants to depend on technology. And if you look at CT scan here, technology, again, once you have CT scan, AI can come in. Why? Because if you do enough of the CT scans, so the same part of the body, say the brain, they can tell you, this is the shape of the brain, and if I scan 1,000 brain scans, then I know roughly this patient has got this issue. That's what AI says, inform, right? But the question is, will that brain scan be leaked? Oh, I tell you this, short answer is yes. Very high chance. So that's why they have this thing called PDPA, whereby you de-identify the patient's identity, so that when it goes to a system for analysis, patients are never identified by their individual code. Right? But I'll tell you also that there are ways to do a backtracking somewhere to interpolate and then find the identity of the patient. It is possible, but it's a longer process. So how do we overcome that? In the game of supply chain, in terms of contracting and all these cost issues and pricing, what they do is they make use of what we call smart contracting and blockchains, whereby once you enter the data, someone enters, you cannot be touched anymore. That means only relevant bodies, parties will see parts of data they need to see. All others cannot see. That's one way to do it. But of course, it's expensive, right? Because you're going to build a system that's like a fortress, totally impregnable. Okay? So, but the question is it worth it? Right? Some people will say, okay, like most of you here, I tell you, 110% of you, you're all either on Facebook, TikTok, and whatever. True? Can I say that? Or Instagram or whatever. But I'll tell you this, 110%, if you use Apple, right, you can bet your last dollar. They can track all this for you and say, where have you been in the last 4 years? And then they can even suggest to you what to do, right? Because it's part of the smart AI-based recommender system. And say, who are you joining with friends? That's why you find, for me, it's very simple. I get very annoyed when I was on Facebook, then guess one day, someone hacked my Facebook, literally hacked it. So for 3 days, I could not use my computer. It was frustrating because I suffered from a lot of withdrawal symptoms. And then after that, my friends who were on Facebook with me, they got upset because why? They also got hacked. Right? It's a system that's contagious, isn't it? Because why? You put a little bug. It's the same like, you know, you talk about this Google, for example. CAPTCHA. You heard about CAPTCHA? It's in CAPTCHA. The challenge with CAPTCHA is this. They always ask you to click certain things and match. But you know, every time you click, you're actually opening access to another system. Right? And that's where the third party actually installs a malware in your system. Then they'll track all your movement. And once they can go in as a malware, guess what? They can pick out information on your system. That's why my current employer, which is the University of Singapore, they're very clear. We're not supposed to use our work system for any personal private reasons. Of course, some people still do. And their concern is this, because you use it, you are exposing the whole university's data to the rest of the world. Right? The question is, can we afford not to? In today's age of technology, somehow you must take what we call, or what I call, a calculated risk. The risk of doing versus the risk of not doing. Which one gives you the least discomfort and which one offers the higher level of benefit. Right? So it's a judgment call. And you'll see that also, young man, when you go to work, right? Because as you run a company, whether it's a CTO, COO, or CEO, you find that your big decision is, do you allow your guys to chat during their work hours, or do you allow your guys to share information about what they did in a serious contract, right? You say no, they also say no, but then offline, you may talk to your wife over dinner, or you talk to your parents over dinner, and then tell something out, and then parents will tell something else, and add on to that, and then they triangulate the story with their friends. Then you find that they paint a whole accurate picture of what you've been doing. So that's the scary part of it. And that's why I talk about analytics. It's not just the data, it's also about the text. They talk about the text analytics, the topic modeling, right? We talked about earlier on. And also the image modeling, whatever you say, I can tell from your face whether you are telling the truth or just having a poker face, right? So that's again imaging, AI-based images.
Thank you, Prof. Go. From Jonathan, any question clear? Okay. Okay, the last questions, maybe Prof. Go, because we have time is more 5 minutes again. Maybe any questions from the other audience?
Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
There's a participant who wants to ask questions through our Zoom meeting.
Okay, please. Oh, via Zoom.
Via Zoom, yeah.
Okay, so where's the Zoom?
Okay,
Hello.
MC, hello. Hello, the audience from the Zoom. If there is a, you can.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hi. Okay.
Hello, my name is Rina. Yeah, at the moment I can speak to you, but I think my video is still controlled by over there, that I cannot show myself.
Okay.
Say that my video is
From Rina Christiansen. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, never mind. Okay, so thank you very much for the information. Yeah, I wish I could show myself, but my video is disabled by Swift. Okay, so I'm going to ask you or give a comment a little bit on the perspective of customer, as a customer point of view. I actually live in Korea at the moment, South Korea. So I really I can reconcile what you say about the effective efficiency, DHL, Amazon, and we have our own Kupang here that is super efficient. And you talk about Samsung as well. Actually, I also live in Goji Island, and we have that Hanwha shipyard and Samsung as well on our island. Yeah, I just could relate. Okay, the video is asked. All right. All right.
Oh, okay. I see your face now. Hi.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking, sir, as a perspective of a customer for this efficiency of supply chains, etc. That how much is our safety, privacy in terms of confidentiality, transparency, etc. That we actually can manage, as you said, like everything can be hacked. And as we know, that US has the major market of internet service, etc. But I was concerning about is our safety, privacy in the future. As you mentioned, for example, in 2015, that we'll have drone will deliver our package. So if our AI is very obedient, that we will deliver anything and everything, right? So we kind of need an AI who can say no to things, because if AI can deliver packets, it can also be a bomb there. See? So I'm not afraid about unemployment as such. Well, some people may be, the Chinese people, as you said, but I'm concerned about our safety if there's no human interference in the process of supply chains. And then we have to make safety, the AI must be more ethical than us. So AI must maybe say no to our delivery then, because as a customer, I may be in danger that a bomb can be in front of my door. Thank you.
Okay. Let me. Oh, sorry.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Christina. Yeah. So from your question, I can make a small. What's the conclusion for the specified questions? Maybe sometimes not clear.
Yes.
Can repeat.
Perhaps the Professor Go understand what I said. Is about I concerned from the customer point of view. If there is efficient delivery and is everything run by AI, drone, for example, will be drone delivery in 2015. What is my safety as a customer? If drone can do that without human interference, if the drone is obedient, the drone can put bomb out in front of my door.
Okay.
It is a fact. I mean, it's going to be
optimization,
Okay. Okay. I like the question that you raised, Madam. I think one thing is that we are all, how should I put it? We're all persuaded by what we see, what we eat, and what we feel, right? Because we've seen a lot of these sci-fi movies, we tend to think that that's possible, true enough. And I tell you the truth, okay? A lot of times, because human beings, being humans as we are creative, right? Just now, earlier, the speaker from Ethiopia talked about creativity, isn't it? And one of the creativity we can learn is actually by watching all these sci-fi movies where drones are used. True? I tell you this in all honesty, even organization, I mean, this is currently one organization I will be working with in a few months' time, or 4 months later, right? And they're also looking at how to use drones, not just for, like what we talk about, peacetime delivery. That's what the food delivery is about. But drones can also be used for another purpose, isn't it? Yeah. Right? For
That's
war. Right? Why? Because drones serve a purpose. And what is that? They can deliver to places which are remote. And in the case of China again, let's go back to China. They have identified all this technology, this set of equipment called drones, or robotic drones, as part and parcel and members of what we call the low flight economy. In short, they say that transportation is more than just the 5 main modes: land, sea, air, right? And short sea shipping and road and others, and also space transportation. But they say that there's also a mid-level transportation, delivery by drones. Just now I quoted to you a story about this company called Meituan in southern China, where during COVID-19, they trialed the food delivery. And then after, you know what they did? They went beyond that now. What I told you was a story which is true, but it's old, it's dated, right? Because they have progressed as a result of the commitment by the Chinese government to say, let's push this strategic emerging industry and make it part and parcel of building a new economy. So what is a new economy? It's called a pilotless drone delivery economy, whereby you don't just deliver, right? Within the city, last mile on food for lunch and dinner, right? Because of COVID-19 or for other purposes, but you also deliver now goods from between cities in China. And the good news is this, they have actually tested this and it works. And the better news is this, they have not just used it on drones. Now their travel equipment is bigger. It's almost the size of a small plane like a Cessna. Right? So what does it say? It says that, look, even pilots can be at risk of losing their jobs. Right? And by pilots, I mean the aeroplane pilots, not the ship pilots, the harbor pilots. Right? So the question then is, how do pilots train themselves now? They want to be smarter, or are they going to be pilots in the plane itself, or can they be your computer game, your joystick pilot, where you move the joystick and the plane will move accordingly? Right? So that means there must be someone who will take control of the wheels. Right? That's what it is. But that said, think about a story that came out recently, where one company, we shall not mention names here, they had a big issue in the press whereby the driver was driving and the car was so-called managed by a control system. It means to say that the driver was in the car, but he wasn't controlling the car, right? And they had an accident. So what happens to that? So what does it say? It says that, look, there are certain things that we still need humans. But your question then is, not so much for the war and all that, and privacy, but the question is, how will humans be displaced in all these activities, right? Because why? We are humans, we need to exercise. If we don't exercise, our muscles will atrophy. And once our muscles atrophy, our brain will die slowly, right? Because creativity is because we are forced to think creatively, and hence we are creative. But if we don't think, we just sit down there, go into a car, the car takes us from point A to point B, and all we do is to tell, okay, Google, bring me to point A. And the machine will say that, and you say, okay, I'll bring you there, right? But if it bring you there, you just press a button, that's all. So you have very little options, opportunities to exercise your muscle. Okay, and because, okay, sorry, I could have talked to my AI now and asked him to keep quiet. Okay, sorry, that was my AI. Yeah, okay, can. Right, so what I'm saying is that, look, mankind is at a very interesting cusp, a cusp of a new generation of living, a new generation of thinking, doing things, a new generation of working, right? But yet, at the same time, the very tools that we create, and I don't disagree with you, madam, okay? The very tools that we create, we must be clear and careful that we manage it properly for the greater good of mankind and for future generations. Otherwise, you find that you're actually working your own demise, in the sense that you might end up killing yourself, because why? From a creative generation, you become uncreative, and then after that, you let the agentic AI take over, right? So that's where the danger is. So I agree with you that what we do must be seen in the proper light and properly motivated. Okay.
Thank you, Mbak Ibu Rina, for your question. Is very interesting, yeah, about the drone. Maybe I want to add something, yeah, about the drone, yeah. Maybe from Progo, maybe like the farming. the drone, maybe like you said in China, the agriculture very, very massive because the AI by the drone, because I think the drone can optimize to check after post-harvest, yeah. Yeah, because they can measure how many tons to calculate, isn't it, yeah, Prof? Yeah.
Correct.
So from this, how we can try to develop like this prototype, like drone and the concept, the measure efficiency for you, from the tips and for the furthermore research for any.
Okay, I answer your question. That's a good question. Drones are used not just for food delivery, not just for parcel delivery, but now also for human delivery. And in the agri sector, drones have been used for some time to monitor crop output, disease, pestilence, locusts, right, in places like India and Bangladesh, right? Yeah. And the other part of the drones is also to use by forest rangers to monitor poaching. Because why? Humans can only travel so much in a certain radius. But if I'm one controller, a ranger, I can control 5 or 6 drones at the stroke of my computer, a laptop or iPad. I can then manage bigger area, right? So that means for one person, I have a wider area of coverage, and now I become more enabled, right, in that sense. So that's where I think policy must be enlightened to allow AI, smart AI, artificial generative AI to come in to help humanity look at things from a very more sophisticated way, right? Rather than always doing the same old way, the same thing the same old way in that sense, right? So that's where the challenge is.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. So, because the time is ended up, and I will conclude this, the conclusion that with our seminary that AI now or never, this is our topic for the today, and at the end speech of the Prof. Go said, because AI have pros and cons, but with the smart AI, we can help to utilize any activity process that involve in the supply chain processes, like the many question from the data ethics, from the drone concepts, all of the things that integrated with the AI can help the citizens or the community to get the prosperity and to get the success. Because without AI, now or never, we cannot compete or maintain the resilience of the supply chain in the futures. So this is our of the topic at the end of the topic, and thank you very much, Prof. Go, for your proposition statement. Give applause, Prof. Go. Yeah, the very interesting topic for today, the AI integrated supply chain. Give insight from especially citizens in Satya Wacana University, especially students and stakeholders. Give the high impression how about the role of the AI can help the citizen, especially in supply chain management concept. Thank you for the more research. Thank you, netizen. Thank you, audience. Give applause again for Prof. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Marco, PhD, for your highly informative presentation, and sincere appreciation also goes to Dr. Gede Aryadi, Ascom MBA, for moderating the session so excellently.
We would now like to invite Professor Marco, PhD, and Dr. Gede Aryadi to remain on stage to receive a token of appreciation, which will be presented by the head of the Master of Management Program, Dr. Hani Sirine, SAMM.
We kindly ask Prof. Go, Mr. Gede, and Mrs. Hani to step down from the stage so we can document this moment with the participant.
Okay, everyone, please stand. Stand up. Stand up.
Okay, everyone ready? One. Okay, 1, 2, 3, cheers. Okay, once again, maybe 1, 2, 3, cheers. Okay, thank you everyone. We have now reached the end of today's program. We extend our deep thanks to all speakers, moderators, and participants who have contributed and shared extraordinary insight throughout the day. Before we officially conclude, let's bow our heads in a closing prayer to express our gratitude for today's opportunities. The closing prayer will be led by Eni Susanto, SPD MM. Ma'am Eni, the floor is yours.
Let us pray together. Our Heavenly Father, that we call in the name of Jesus, we thank you for the opportunity to gather from diverse places and backgrounds to share knowledge and to learn from one another. We are grateful for the insights and connections made during today's event. As we are going to depart from this place, please bless us throughout the remainder of the day and guide us safely home. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and evermore. Amen.
Thank you, Eni Susanto, SPD MM, for the prayer. Okay, two participants who attend session 3 are required to scan the barcode display on the screen in order to receive the certificate. You have the 3 minutes to complete this process. Thank you, everyone.
The concludes of the first day of the International Management Days 2025. Thank you to all our distinguished guests and participants for attending. For those who will be joining us again tomorrow, please be reminded to arrive on time. Day 2 will be held at Building F, room F114. Once again, I am Agnes Juanita and my partner,
Michael Handoyo.
We bid you farewell for now.
Thank
you and may God bless you. See you
See ya.
tomorrow, everyone.